It's always an amazing time to be right here on Rise and Shine. Of course, remember, it's your early morning breakfast show. And today is Friday, 26th day of May 2023. 3 days to the much awaited inauguration and transition of government from the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari and of course to that of the incoming President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and his vice President-elect Kashim Shatima. My name is Janice Kwabum. Thank you so much for being a part of our show.
Some days we wake up elated, other days you feel like you're under the shit, but every day is a good day to rise and shine.
Definitely.
My name is Uyai Aneken. Thanks for choosing Spectrum Television. Thanks for choosing Rise and Shine. Of course, we'd like for you to be a part of our community. And every time I tell you this, there is a big buzz going on somewhere, and you need to catch up on all that. Follow us at spectrumtv.ng. Of course, you need to search us out on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok. There's a lot of conversations you can carry on. I mean, inauguration is in about 3 days. What are your thoughts? Hop onto Twitter and let's have that conversation. Of course, we are already prepping you ahead. A lot of room will be made for you to have those conversations on air also on Monday, okay? So let's come alive already. Good morning and thanks for joining us once again. Good morning, Janice.
Good morning, Mia.
According to you, thank God it's Friday.
Yeah, thank God it's Friday.
Yeah.
We're so elated because it is Friday. And yeah, it's always great doing this with you. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and today, of course, some good energy, right? Some really nice energy. Just talking about things happening in the country. Sometimes it could be like it could really take its toll on us. When we are getting to talk about things that are happening on the negative, right? But we just have to like brush it off, keep talking about it, set agenda for government, and of course every other stakeholder in terms of giving out governance. But it's good. Yesterday, a hashtag was trending. Yeah, still on the heels of the inauguration. There was a concert yesterday at the Moshid Abiola Stadium, and like a lot of artists, had to come perform. Don't also forget that there has been a lot of drags. Where we even look back at the campaigns and the elections, some major celebrities that were on the side of the batified and those that were on the side of the articulated and those that were on the side of the obedient and the kwankwasias and all of that, And so there was this division between, who is on this one side and who is on that one side. And something that was quite funny is the fact that a lot of celebrities that were on the side of the Batified were backlashed for, joining the Batified, joining and, pushing forward for the Batified and all of that. But would we say that this is their moment? For those celebrities, would we say that this is their moment? Because we had a whole lot of them throng out yesterday at the Moshid Abiola Stadium in Abuja for this particular concert.
As expected, there is no investment that you make and you're not expecting a return because everyone at the end of the day is choosing their side. And, if it turns out that, it was your man that got picked for the job, then you're expecting that you're going to get some favors in return, especially how we saw some of them carry the issue on their head. I mean, the likes of Badmos now printed Badmos. She printed Ashwebi for swearing in, of Tinubu now. So you can imagine all those kinds of people. They have to have one slot or the other, even in the entertainment industry. Remember that I think we're having conversations maybe last week and someone was saying some of these positions, even ministerially, people buy them. So
for so much.
For so much. So you can imagine all the investment, online activity entertainers will do. So it's their turn to cash out. And you can imagine that, the activity slated out for this weekend, and even there's a luncheon after the whole event has been completed. There's going to be an opportunity for them to, be able to cash out on who they chose to support, of course. And it's good for them.
Yeah, definitely good for them. Maybe it's their moment.
But what if we now see entertainers from, like, let me use the obedience, for instance. We had the likes of Peter Okoye that were strong obedience. What if we now see, the Tinubu-led administration inviting the P-Square brothers to perform? Wouldn't they go and perform for
them? I know a lot of people people that have turned down such invitations. So it's
Yeah.
possible that it could be turned down as well, because of course, if you have to see the likes of the Okoye brothers perform in a Batified concert, it negates the fact that, oh, they were supporters of obedience and all of that. So we saw a lot of celebrities, Nigerian celebrities, perform, the likes of Wande Cole, the likes of Waj, a whole lot of them yesterday at the MKO Abiola Stadium in a concert for a pre-inauguration of the president now. And it was beautiful to see anyway, and many more congratulations. Of course, there was Zenoliski. Zenoliski was also there as part of those that were called to for that concert performances. But let's just move away from that and look at our major, no, our flash news. Yes, our flash news for the morning. Quite interesting conversations on the front burner this morning in terms of flash news. DSS is saying that they are suspecting some unscrupulous elements that want to protest across the states, you know, to stall the inaugurations at different states. Now it's quite disturbing that the DSS says they have uncovered plans to they disclosed that some elements are planning to disrupt the handover ceremony in some parts of the country. According to the service, these elements plan to undermine the efforts of the security agencies as well as cause panic among the citizens. Down in a statement that was released yesterday by the spokesperson for the DSS, Peter Afunanya, the DSS urged citizens to adhere to laid down protocols for the event across the country. The statement also partly read that it would be recalled that the secretary, I beg your pardon, to the government of the Federation and chairman of the Presidential Transition Council on May 18, 2023, held a word press conference during which he announced activities for the presidential inauguration. The major highlights of the activities as a swearing in of the president on May 29 in Abuja. On the same date, of course, new governors will also be inaugurated in most of the states. Now, however, aware of plans to subversive elements to disrupt the programs in parts of the country, the aim is to undermine security agencies' efforts at ensuring peaceful ceremony as well as creating panic and fear among members of the public. Serious concerns, yeah. I remember also that I don't know at this point if we should take these kinds of warnings seriously or not seriously, because you remember that we had conversations around the DSS some months ago where it was said that there was plans to disrupt activities, I think in Abuja or so. I can't remember particularly. And then Nigerians were like, okay, so if you have this, you know, intel, why not go ahead and unravel it? Why not go ahead and tell us exactly? Okay, it was plans for an interim government to be installed, actually. Why not go ahead and tell us who the people that are behind this, activities are and all of that? And if you remember also, that story just died down like that. We've not heard anything again as to people planning to install an interim government and all of that. But this is a warning, more like a warning. I think it's just a warning to Nigerians. You know, some scrupulous elements, I'll use their words now, that are trying to foment trouble across the country during the inauguration or handing over on May 29 to, wade off, if not so. Of course, remember also that a lot of warnings have come even from the military and chief of army staff, as to why you shouldn't even want to foment trouble on those days. So, well, I think Nigerians should also know that what matters at this moment is the internal democracy of our country, and of course the peaceful coexistence as well. Whatever it is that we do today, it will definitely have a ripple effect on everybody, the common man especially. So if we know that we are not satisfied with some of the ongoings, of the transition process and all of that, of the inauguration particularly, I think that the cases are in courts. Let's just allow the judiciary make their judgments at the end of the day.
Peace and unity is very important for us as a country. And as part of the warning that they have given, they have said unauthorized persons, that must not be at the Eagle Square for the event should not find themselves there, because then you would have to hold yourself to blame in the event that you are manhandled or anything like that. They have said only accredited persons will be allowed, to the venue of the event. And it also worries us when we hear, like the DSS trying to make news of intels that they have gathered, instead of like going head on to address those issues. Like you had earlier asked, at the end of the day, some people will be trying to decipher whether or not they should take these intels very seriously. But I think, to just be cautious people, it's important that we take it seriously and just stay, out of harm's way. A philosophy that, people like to throw up every time this kinds of issue pop is that at the end of the day, the people that you think are the problem do not, they don't get in the line of crossfires. At the end of the day, they will still be where they are, and it's the common man, that gets in the way of crossfire. And I feel like that's not necessary. Peace is most important.
Yeah, very.
Like everybody has reiterated, starting from Mahmoud Yakubu, chairman of INEC. If you have an issue with the fact that February 25th election was not conducted as should, let the courts be the ones to decide. At this, at the level where we are, a protest can solve anything.
Of course, yes.
And let's even be fair to everyone in the country, ratified, articulated, obedient. Everyone has waited this far without necessarily having any protest. A couple of days to the inauguration will not change, that
Anything,
fact.
yeah.
Yes. So let's allow the process to go through. The military has continued to reel out warnings, and I don't think the Nigerian military is one sect of the force that you want to joke with
We want to take for
either way.
granted.
Really, you don't want to take them for granted. So let there be peace. Let the inauguration finish, and hopefully, the hearing for the judicial election petition tribunal is going to be out soon. If after that you still have questions, maybe you can petition the election tribunal,
Again.
again. But for now, May 29 stands sacrosanct,
It
and that's a
does.
Monday. A lot has been put into the event. A lot of Nigerians agree with this, and a lot of Nigerians do not also agree with this. But at the end of the day, like we always say, it is only this one Nigeria that we have, and we
Yeah.
have to stay here in peace. But yeah, still speaking about incoming administration, incoming leaders. And many more things that are happening. We have a major story, and it's more like this has been happening for a couple of weeks now. We are having a lot of outgoings advising the incoming people as to how they should organize themselves in office. And the presidential candidate of the New Nigeria People's Party has advised incoming leaders. Of course, we're talking about Rabiu Musa Kwankwa. So he urged politicians to build people rather than steal public funds. He gave this advice in Mina on Thursday when he served as the chairman at the inaugural lecture of the Niger State Governor-elect Mohamed Bago. Now, money is not everything. The intention should be basically to improve the lives of the needy and downtrodden. I quote him as saying, if you like to sell houses, public buildings, sell churches or mosques to your friends and family after you leave office, you will regret it, Kwankwaso said. Now, the former governor urged the governor-elect to invest heavily in education and security for the good of Niger State, or would regret his future, adding that the investment in education might not be visible immediately, but would eventually yield results. Very futuristic. He added that for Bago to be a performing governor, he has to hit the ground running immediately after his swearing in for the socio-economic development of the state. He also revealed that the lack of competence and knowledge has led to the failure of many governors who have nothing to show in their state after 4 or 8 years of governance. Now, the former chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, Professor Atairu Mohammed Jega, also gave a keynote address, and he stated that good governance is supposed to be driven by selfless and visionary leaders to address the needs and the aspirations of the populace. Of course, Jega also said that bad governance is responsible for the present economic woes in the country, adding that public office holders need to be transparent and accountable at all times. Putting these two men side by side, Rabiu Kwankwaso and Atai Rujega, their words to the incoming governor of Niger State, we have continued to hear these kinds of advice. And, you know, we've always had the complaint of, oh, all politicians are corrupt, you know, they're all, you know, drawn out of the same stock. But some of them have great heads on their neck, and they, you know, they think of the overall good that they can bring to the people. One might also say that these are just mere words, but at the end of the day, there is truth in what they are saying.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, why not invest more into the people? Let, you know, posterity remember you for good. For instance, we remember that Kwankwaso, in his manifesto and things he said in the campaign, education was very deep for him.
Yeah.
Yes, and he continues to push that conversation wherever he's found. Now he's tasking the incoming Governor of Niger State, Mohammed Bago, to make sure that he invests into education. Like we said, of Muhammadu Buhari, the president, you know, of the Federal Republic, some of the developmental strides he has embarked on are not, you know, for short-term results, that are in the long term. And that's what Kwankwase was pointing out. Education might not yield an immediate, you know, returns, but eventually you will be glad that you made investments into the citizenry of, you know, Niger State. And I also believe that these, you know, kinds of admonitions cuts across for all leaderships, you know, in the 36 states of, you know, the Federation at this time, and even to the presidency also.
Yeah, but it's good that, you know, we find governors like, or former governors like Rabiu Kwankwaso now, you know, and Atahiru Jega, who was one time you know,
one of the most
INEC
celebrated
chairman.
INEC chairman, I would say.
Well, what I would say, he was celebrated or not, but then when we take our minds back to even how he was taken out of office, it was because of, oh, he did not, you know, give Nigerians the kind of elections that there's always also that allegation that, you know, during the time of Atahiru Jega, we had the worst kinds of elections, you know, bedeviled by a lot of controversies and all of that as well. And at that point, Nigerians saw him not good enough, you know, as INEC chairman at the point. But it's good that we see these kinds of stakeholders, political stakeholders, coming out to say, look, invest more in people, let your policies be people oriented and all of that. But let's take our minds back again to I think 2019 now, when of course the Rabiu Kwankwaso's successor, Ganduje now, there was a suing. Because when we say that you're giving advice, they say when you want to come with equity, come with clean hands.
Exactly.
Right? So you should be giving advice, this kinds of advice, when you know that you don't have skeletons in your cupboard. But there's a situation here, according to Ganduje, that Kwankwaso in 2019, or rather when he was governor of Kano State at the moment, at that point, that he had collected 90% from the 44 local governments and paid the mobilization fee and funded his presidential campaign. He collected funds, 90% of funds from 44 local governments, and used it to fund his presidential campaign. With the remaining balance, the Kwankwasaya people have started campaigning. Of course, that was a report from Gandhi. So there are situations where you're beginning to advise somebody because you are outside now. You have a lot of advices to give. I'm not saying that it's not a good advice.
Exactly.
It's a perfect advice to give to an incoming governor,
exactly.
right? Of course, Mohammed Bago should take the advice also very, very seriously. But when you're coming to advise people, let it be that when they look at your track record, nothing indicting is on your track record. We also know that EFCC was after Kwankwaso at some point because of funds that were allegedly misappropriated. So if you want to advise me, let me go back to your track record and your precedents and know that there's nothing like a skeleton in your cupboard. But something just popped in my head now, and I remembered something that one of our resource persons said, that in Nigeria, when they want to give you an appointment or a position, right, they look for people that have already bad records, so that when you want to
exactly
from what
they
they're
have
asking
something
you to do,
they
they show you your bad record. Are you going to stay or not going to do? Right? So, but again, it's a good advice to give to any incoming government, but when we are doing these kinds of advice, let us also search ourselves and know, what did we do? Did we also give people oriented policies where the people, the citizens of that state, are major priority? Because when we give these kinds of advice and our records are not clean, it just doesn't make sense, because everybody will like, oh, did you do same?
At the end of the day, Nigerians will always react to these kinds of advices churning out from the political elites that we have in the country. And, some people have called Rabiu Kwankwaso, a repentant, person himself. That's why he can now give the advice, and then someone else says, tell them, maybe they will listen if it comes from one of them. So like you're saying, it's neither here nor there. The crux of the issue is that the advice is valid.
Yes.
The containers, it may be coming from, all of them questionable put together.
Yeah, very, very questionable.
Yes, but
very
then
questionable.
It's important that in as much as we may not be able to separate some of these corrupt practices from these offices, at the end of the day, make sure that, a wider percentage of what you spend, the resources of your state, taxpayers' money allocations to do, was for the good of the citizenry of your state and for the nation at the end of the day.
Yeah,
but these are important advices. While former statesmen are giving all these advices at this time, they are the ones that know what they see ahead. And we also hope that Nigerians will be in a safe place. A lot of comparisons will start to be done now. Former administration, current administration, the former governor, the incoming governor. Let's just be sure that our states are moving forward. It's not becoming worse than the last person that handed over. But then more bigger stories. Activities are still happening towards May 29, and we see the fact that President Muhammadu Buhari has conferred the national honor of GCFR on Bola Tinubu and the GCON on Kashim Shettima. Big things are already happening. Of course, these are Nigeria's highest national honors, which have been conferred on Bola Tinubu, president-elect, and Kashim Shettima, vice president-elect. And they also said, I shall not disappoint you, Mr. Tinubu told President Buhari rather at the event. Of course, these are great times, a lot of activities which had already been reeled out to happen. And let's give voice to his response. Of course, that's the president-elect.
The people have put their trust in us. You have done your part, Mr. President. Now, a great duty will descend on me. I understand the meaning of the honor given to me today and the magnitude of the task that awaits. Whether you go to Dara or Nigeria or anywhere, you expect knocks on your doors. We are determined, as enumerated, on security, economy, agriculture, jobs, education, health, and power, and in all sectors. We must make headway as you've charted the course. The people deserve no less. You said so. I shall not disappoint you. Thank you.
It is now my singular honor and privilege to invite the President, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, His Excellency President Muhammadu Buhari, to preside over the transmission of the handover documents to President-elect His Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR. I thank you for your kind attention and patience, and God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Yeah. Yes, it's all good. We don't have.
Oh, everything together. Oh, okay. So the next thing we are doing is to invite the president. The transition documents are going to be handed over to the president-elect now by President Muhammadu Buhari. Then you have the baton of service, which President Buhari will also hand over to the president-elect, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR. You know that in a relay race, batons are handed over. It shows you that governance and government is a long-distance race.
Of course, the baton there has been shifted to, Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And maybe on May 29, the baton will be shifted totally. This is just like processors. But they've been conferred with the highest honor in the country now, GCFR and then GCON. Of course, on Bola Tinubu and Shatima respectively. That's more like the highest. And by the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, it is what is supposed to happen because he is the Grand Commander of the Federal Republic now. But again, something very funny that he said. You remember also that recently the president said if he is disturbed in any way in Nigeria, of course, his brothers in Benin Republic will definitely, or is it Benin now? Niger Republic. Yeah. Will definitely, fight for him and all of that. So, but I heard the president-elect also make, a comment, yes, towards that. He says whether you go to Niger or not, you'll still receive knocks on your door. Expect knocks on your door. Maybe knocks in the sense that, yes, we'll always come to you for further, counseling or for advice or for admonition or whatever it is. You can't stay irrelevant because you are out of governance and all of that. But it's good to see. Many congratulations would say to Bola Ahmed Tinubu at this point in time, and of course to his vice president-elect as well, Kashim Shettima.
Of course, Bola Tinubu, president-elect, had also commented during after receiving the transition documents. He said in paying his tribute that we'll not call him President Muhammadu Buhari was a Democrat. Now, the president-elect said that based on the details provided by the chairman of the Transition Council, Boss Mustafa, the documents clearly enumerated the effort of the past 8 years. He told Mr. Buhari, of course, Mr. Buhari comes into picture now, that no one can deny his contribution to Nigeria's national development. The president-elect also expressed his delight at taking over, saying, "I am full of pride to say that this moment is our moment." Okay. Of course, that's like the basic thing there. Like we said, the energy with which the baton was received goes to show that, of course, he says it is a moment of pride. This moment is their moment.
Yeah, and definitely.
Fingers crossed, actually, as we all are waiting to see what they are going to make out of the moment that is currently theirs. In commending the president of the things that he has done, his contribution to moving Nigeria forward, we can't say he has not done anything worthwhile in 8 years. We're also going to see how and this is still under the APC. It's not like it's moving from one party to the other. So let's see how much more APC does in another 8 years plus 4 takes us to about 12 years. I think so, about 12 years. So
Yeah,
let's see how much more APC contributes to Nigeria in 12 years. And like President Muhammadu Buhari said, now the prerogative remains with Nigerians. If they do not give us the kinds of returns we are expecting, then Nigerians hold the sole right to vote them out of office after 4 years. I think that is something that Nigerians should not forget to hold, very close to their sleeve. The power remains with Nigerians in spite of the diverse feelings that we had as a result of the February 25th elections. Everybody needs to look at, the precedents that the Tinubu-led administration will be laying in the next 4 years. If it is unacceptable, the power remains with Nigerians to vote them out, in the next cycle of election, and that cuts across for all state elections also.
Yeah, sure it does. But renewed hope is what the president-elect Bola Siwaju Tinubu is promising all Nigerians, and he has said that he cannot do it alone. He needs the collective efforts of everybody. So more like calling on all Nigerians to come on board. Different people from different sectors just come on board and let's make Nigeria work again. At this point, we take a breather and join Mary Joseph, who's standing by for the news brief. And when we come back, of course, still on Rise and Shine this morning, we have Daily Spotlight coming up, and we'll also be looking at focus conversation this morning. Just stay with us, and I'm over muscle.
State and government, Secretary General, Distinguished delegates.
This was the Lagos, Nigeria voting for Spectrum TV to recover from the lapse in sequence counting.
A very good morning to you and welcome to your morning news brief on Spectrum. Live from Uyo, I am Mary Joseph. Our news brief this morning begins with a report that the federal government has committed to providing at least 50% of the seed capital for the establishment of the Nigerian Wholesale Impact Investment Fund, WIIF. The Minister of State for Finance and Budget Planning, Clem Abba, who disclosed this at a high-level roundtable meeting on the establishment of the WIIF in Abuja, said the government is committed to promoting public-private partnership aimed at fueling a just and equitable society. Meanwhile, President Muhammadu Buhari has conferred national honors on President-elect Bola Ahmed Tinubu and his Vice President-elect Kashim Shettima. Tinubu and Shettima were conferred with the national honors of the Grand Commander of the Federal Republic and the Grand Commander of the Order of Niger. Reports say that the investiture, which took place at the State House Conference Center in Abuja, is part of a series of events lined up for the May 29 inauguration ceremony. We move now to education now, where the federal government has officially released the white paper report of visitation panels to 42 higher institutions, which was one of the demands laid down by the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU, during the union strike in 2022. Parts of the visitation panel's term of references was to review the performance of each institution assigned in the area of governance, academic standards, quality assurance, management of finances, relationships between the management and the staff, as well as the structures of the school's infrastructure and instructional materials. We head now to the foreign scene now, where the President, Joe Biden, has named Charles Brown Jr. to be the next chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the top military officer in the U.S. Brown, who is currently the Air Force Chief of Staff, would replace General Mark Milley, whose term ends in September. Reports say that he would be the only other black officer holding this top post in U.S. history besides General Colin Powell, who served from 1989 to 1993. And finally, in sport, Manchester United have secured Champions League football for next season after a 4-1 win over Chelsea at Old Trafford. Casemiro scored the opener for the United in the 6th minute of the game, while Anthony Martial doubled United's lead just before the halftime break. We'll have details of these stories and more in our news at 12. I'm Mary Joseph. Let's head back to Rise and Shine, where we have Janice and Uyai on standby. Do have a wonderful weekend.
As of state and government, Secretary General, Distinguished delegates.
This was the Lagos, Nigeria voting for Spectrum TV to recover from the lapse in sequence counting.
Business exists only to meet the needs of the people, but there's an extra advantage if your product and services are pitched on a platform that gives you the added advantage over your competitors. For your desired return on investment and so much more, advertise on Spectrum Television, on StarTimes DTH Channel 421 and on free-to-air with a frequency of 12733. Spectrum Television, broadening your horizon.
Nigerian police, which is the only one allowed by grossly abused. Our governors have to share police powers with the president as stipulated by the constitution. We do not have a federal government police force. We have the Nigerian police force, which shall be administered, organized, and supervised by the Nigerian police.
No, my lord, I want to say something. I want to say something here. Perhaps it might also enlarge the scope of people who should be invited here for examination. My lord, if we cannot find those who literally murdered Abiola, who are those people who could be said to be the beneficiaries of the death of Abiola?
Rogers has linked you with some of the killings he did.
He never did.
He linked you with the attempted murder of Hebrew.
He did not.
My lord, the Matters Council is leading the evidence in our matters.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord, but you can't be talking about cases which are in court,
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord. These cases are in court, my lord. I'm just reminding your lordship.
My lord, sorry, my lord, I think I'll be in cross-examination.
Legally Speaking, a program that deals with legal issues and questions we face as citizens of this amazing country, Nigeria. Legally Speaking. Join us every
Friday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m.
for Legally Speaking.
Many thanks for still being there. Of course, it's the Rise and Shine Daily Live here from Spectrum Television. And we just had Mary Joseph, who was on the desk of the news brief this morning. But just to give you an update of some of the major conversations we've had, we started with our flash story this morning, where the DSS says they have uncovered plans to disrupt inauguration in states, and they are warning that Nigerians should desist from such actions if anybody is planning to. Of course, the military has also said they are on top of their games to make sure that they deal with any unscrupulous elements that would want to try to stall inaugurations across board on different states across the federation. And then away from that, we also looked at the fact that Rabiu Kwankwaso is also saying and telling the incumbent, or rather the incoming governor of which state now?
Niger State.
Niger State. Thank you so much. Niger State, Mohammed Bago, not to steal public funds. It's more like a general advice to every politician that is coming on board in this next administration. He says, build people rather. And moving away from that, we also saw that Tinubu and Shetima have received the highest national honors in the country, that is GCFR and GCON respectively. And that's all. More like the stories, the major stories we had this morning on the show. So do well to follow us across all our social media. Subscribe to your YouTube channel, which is very important, so that you can get up to date with what we have been discussing on the show this morning. But very quickly now, we go over to Daily Spotlight, where we get to share information on the front pages of our national dailies with you. And remember also that this is one segment where we get to allow you share your opinion, your opinion on all of the informations that we'll be bringing on the front pages of the national dailies this morning. So just stick around for that one as well. So now over to Daily Spotlight.
On Daily Spotlight this morning, we'll be starting with This Day newspaper. And the very big story there says Buhari hands over transition document to Tinubu, bestows on him GCFR, Shetima, GCON. Of course, we're looking at the front page of This Day newspaper. Says he ran a good race, finished his course as president. Charges president-elect incoming VP to lead with wisdom, courage and compassion. Reiterates former Lagos governor has experience, capacity to lead the country. Tinubu to Buhari, wherever you are, be it Dara or Niger Republic, expect knocks on your doors. Says he's aware of the enormous responsibilities ahead of him. We also have here NUPRC signed 7 regulations to push for accurate crude metering, reduce gas flaring. NNPC eyes $2.1 billion gas revenue, executes 5 suite of agreements on OML 130 with Total, CNOOC others. Health workers commence indefinite strike nationwide over dispute with federal government. That story can be found on page 17. This coming a few days after they had called off their 5-day warning strike. And we also see here Buhari, National Assembly should be independent, decide own leadership. Okay. We see here Deji Olumoye, Kingsley Nweze, Adebayo Kinwade. Okay. We also have here that, of course, there's a picture story of the president, Muhammadu Buhari, conferring the GCFR to the president-elect. Bawa, fighting financial crimes, crucial to national service. Okay, page 42 is where you can find that story. And that's all we have on the front page of this day newspaper.
We quickly run through the front page of The Nation, or rather the Punch newspaper this morning. Of course, the big story there says May 29, Tinubu gets transition report, vows to tackle insecurity, power crisis. And moving forward, airline sue Sirika as Nigerian airplane arrives today, which is, that story is on page 18. Airlines sue Sirika as Nigeria airplanes arrive today. I wonder what they're suing him for. Court finds lawyer 40 million over anti-Tinubu inauguration suit. You have that story on page 13. Health workers begin indefinite strike. Federal government shuns demands. You have that story on page 28. And we also have reps insist on $2.4 billion oil sale probe. And according to that story, it says Grill Malami. Page 13 is where you get details of that story from. And a larger portion of the Punch newspaper is bought over by Tom Polo, who felicitates with Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu and wishes him successful presidency and pledges support to secure critical assets and confront enemies of democracy. Okay, and that's all that is on the front page of the Punch.
Okay, moving on from the Punch this morning, we take a look at the Nation newspaper. Look at the Nation newspaper this morning, and that has like a two-piece suit on it. We're looking at the fact that Tinubu, okay, I understand the magnitude of task ahead. Page 3 is where you can find that story. We also have here President-elect gets baton of service transition document. Buhari confers GCFR on Tinubu, GCON on Shetima. President, after a good race, I have passed the baton. Okay, we also have a big picture story there of Tompolo felicitating Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, cause wishing him a successful presidency and pledges support to secure critical assets and confront enemies of democracy. We have the other part of the Nation newspaper, okay, still says the same thing. We also see here, I knew nothing about education when appointed. Minister recalls early days. I think that's an indictment on, how appointments are done in this country. Okay. Okay, we're seeing the Minister of Education says he knew nothing about education when he was appointed. So one can say, hence the kinds of things we have seen, in the education sector. All right. We also see here UK Member of Parliament, varsities knock rule on foreign students' families ban. Page 2 is where you can find that. Of course, that's a major developing story. We also see here Soludo writes Buhari on Namdi Kanu's release. Work begins on 45-kilometer Akure Ado Ekiti Road, page 27. Many appointees worked against my re-election, page 2. You also see here workers shot Ogun Assembly, page 27 is where you can find that story. US 2024, Florida governor to challenge Trump for ticket. May 29 inauguration. It's an honor to lead Biden's delegation. Steer clear of venues. Police DSS warns subversive elements. Oshibajo takes Shatima on tour of office. Court slams 40 million naira fine on politician over frivolous case. We also have here 100 million Nigerians captured for NIN, says federal government, page 2. And that's all we have on the Nation newspaper.
Okay, let's look at Daily Sun this morning. Daily Sun says the big story, of course, 4 days to hand over. 4 days to hand over, says the Daily Sun, as the big story again. DSS alleges plots to disrupt Tinubu's inauguration, and the writer here says warns against comments, publication that will cause violence. We have a story here that says it's a taboo to name second Niger bridge after Buhari, says IPOB group. And the writer says suggest Ojuku Ekweme as replacement. Moving forward, let's see whether we have all the stories on the front page of Daily Sun now. Of course, a better part of Daily Sun has been taken over by the picture of His Excellency Asiwaju Bola Tinubu by Tom Polo, who is felicitating with the president-elect. And that's all the stories that we have on the front page of Daily Sun.
Okay, moving on from Daily Sun now, let's look at the Vanguard newspaper. Look at Vanguard, the big story there says, okay, of course, same thing. Tinubu says, I know extent of task ahead won't fail Nigerians. Promises headway on security, economy, agri, jobs, education, health, power. Buhari confers GCFR, GCON on Tinubu Shatima. We also see here that he adds that Nigeria is in safe hands with Tinubu. Will stop any attempt to scuttle handover, DSS warns. A court declines to stop Tinubu's inauguration, fines lawyer 40 million naira. Page 35 is where you can find details of that particular story. CJN swears in 39 more judges to handle 2023 poll cases. Health workers begin indefinite strike. Page 9 is where you can find that. Rate of killings worrisome. Southern Middle Belt leaders. Alleged culpable homicide. Others. Doguwa has no case to answer. Kano State government. We also see here Nigeria Air. Domestic airlines move to stop takeoff today. 48 million barrels alleged illegal sale of crude false, Malami insists. Nigeria can't be won by words of mouth alone, says Clark at 96. Federal government will award contract borrow till May 28 midnight, says Fashola. Interest rates, manufacturers kick against increases, list challenges. And these are all the stories that we have on the front page of the Punch newspaper, but very worrisome, stories that we also have there.
Punch or the Vanguard now?
Yeah, on the Vanguard newspaper, rather. I think that's all. Okay, that's all. Have you looked at Nigerian Tribune?
Oh, Nigerian Tribune. Just go ahead with that.
Okay, Nigerian Tribune. Okay, we still have some stories here apart from the GCON story. ASU federal government releases white paper of visitation panels. Page 5 is where you can find that. We also have here Kano government drops murder charges against Dogua. Tobacco kills 8 million yearly, says WHO. Page 27 is where you can find details of that story. Southern Middle Belt leaders restate position on fiscal federalism, insecurity, judiciary, and others. Court of Appeal slams 40 million naira fine on ex-presidential candidate seeking to stop Tinubu's inauguration. What Tinubu must do on Shell's $3 billion deal, planned pullout of Niger Delta. That's a serious case there. Nigerian Airlines solicitor writes Buhari want him to stop project. Okay, we also see here what we will remember Buhari for. Nigerians speak. Page 19. Lazy youth, longest ASU strike, Twitter ban, Naira to buy Naira, railway border closure, banditry, second Niger bridge. These are the things that Nigerians say they will remember President Muhammadu Buhari for. More details can be found on page 19. And that's all that we have on the front page of Nigerian Tribune. I like that we have a variety of stories, plethora of stories on the front pages this morning.
Quite interesting stories as well.
Different angles.
But of course, the major story seems to be May 29 and the inauguration. We've also seen that now the one that is quite laughable is the one by the Minister of Education, Adamu Adamu, saying that he knew nothing about education when he was appointed. On the other hand, he might be also saying that I knew nothing about education, but I learned the ropes, right? And I was able to function in that capacity. But it brings us back to conversations where we would say, let us put round pegs in round holes and not bring people that know nothing about such sectors. It's not a place where you come and do trial and error, and at the end of the day, we are having some kinds of, difficulties, or we have serious ineptitude going on in such sectors. It's not really a situation that should warrant. Now, we are also talking about the principle of federal character principle, right? Where appointment should cut across geopolitical zones and not basically, we do not want to see very nepotic situations, where a particular ethnic group is more, what's the word now, is more appreciated or is more favored than the other, ethnic groups. So we want to see a situation where people, like we'd always say here, plug and play, right? You know that you have the capacity to lead. We have technocrats in the educational sector, people that are big educationists that know how the sector work and can also feel the pinches or feel the pains of other stakeholders in this particular sector. So well, for Adamu, we are getting to hear that now, that he's saying, oh, he did not know anything about the educational sector before he was appointed, but that's also shooting himself on the foot as we speak at the moment. But it's quite pathetic. I think this is a call for the next administration. Yes, the next administration, know exactly who you're bringing on board. Would we say that Adamu has done well in the space of his office time? That is another conversation that we need to have. During this administration, we have seen enormous strikes happen. We have seen enormous protests. We have seen, under the watch of even Adamu, the educational sector has crumbled to where it is at the moment. And it looks as if he doesn't even have a grip of the educational sector. Everything that is happening in terms of strike between ASU and the government, we also see we see more of the commissioner of the minister now for what now?
Labor.
Minister for Labor, that's Chris
Ngige.
Ngige, at the front burner pushing conversations. And then these conversations, what do these conversations even entail? It's more like, okay, we are going to put stringent measures if you don't go back to work and all of that. So I think that when the next administration comes on board, they should be looking at people that are, this is their specialty, and not just because we want to favor some kind of persons also.
I think for appointments going forward, it's important that we have a balance of knowledge and passion for the job, because apart from just having requisite knowledge about it, one has to have, one has to have the passion for what they want to do. It will inadvertently be seen in the kinds of policies that they make for the sectors, someone who knows their way around. And I think that should, really inform appointment, not that whoever has the highest bidder gets the ministerial appointment. It shouldn't be the case. That is why we are having unhealthy sectors across board. There was a really fine gentleman that they brought one time and gave Minister for Agriculture, Adebayo, I think that's his name now. Okay, but his name eludes me. But then those kinds of people, like you would always say, round pegs in round holes fit, and there was a lot of improvement. And so these kinds of things should be done, going forward. But yeah, that's the much we can take on the front page of our national dailies. More conversation needs to be made this morning. We're still looking at the UK visa student ban and the fact that they can no longer bring their families over to the United Kingdom. But what does this mean for the United Kingdom, and how does this affect the educational sector in Nigeria? This is a conversation we want to have now, and our guest is already on standby to have that conversation with us. And joining us this morning virtually is an astute educationist, Dr. Peter Ogudoro. Of course, he himself holds a PhD in education with emphasis on access to higher education, career management, and attitude change from the University of Reading in England, and leads the world's most vibrant teachers community of over 400,000 members, called Nigerian Teachers. Of course, is joining us this morning. Good morning, Dr. Peter Ogudoro. Very good to have you on the show this morning.
Good morning, Dr. Peter.
Okay, we don't know if Dr. Peter has our audio. Good morning. Can you hear us? Okay, he says he doesn't have our audio. So we need to check that
very quickly now.
So we can have this conversation.
But I know that there was also, a comment, yes, coming from the fact that the ban on Nigerians, not just Nigerians now, but overseas students, and bringing in all their dependents. I know that there was a video clip, to that effect. I think we can just play that while we are trying to get Dr. Peter Ogudoro join us, if we have that clip ready. Okay, good morning, sir, and thanks for joining us.
Good morning. It's my pleasure to join you.
Okay, great conversations we are going to be having this morning. Of course, Uyai had already done your introduction, so we won't go through that again. But of course, just like Uyai had mentioned, Dr. Peter Ogudoro is an astute educationist, one who loves the educational sector and is also doing everything on his part to make sure that we thrive in the country and outside the country as well. But very quickly now, sir, the crux of the matter is the recent visa ban that would take effect on January 24 against Nigerian students bringing in their dependents to the UK. And then, of course, we remember also the story of the interview now that was granted by Timayu. I don't know if Tiamiyu now, that is causing a lot of rave and rage on social media. But very quickly, I want to get your own perspective or your opinion about this visa ban on Nigerian students and their dependents that will take effect on January 24 by the UK government. What's your opinion on that? There's been other reasons why they gave, but let's just get your opinion, sir.
It was anticipated, but it's not completely a bad thing, because it's supposed to push us as a country into fixing our own higher education, so that our young people do not have to always look upwards for good quality education. But we must clarify that the UK government is not saying that with effect from January, no student can bring in dependents. They are saying if it's a master's you are coming to do. Master's is a program that lasts just a year in the UK, typically. they don't expect that if you are coming to spend only 1 year in the UK, you drag everybody in your family along. But if you are coming to do a PhD that will last a minimum of about 3 years, that is fine. You can bring your family along because it's a caring society. They don't expect that you will live in the UK for 3 years and you don't have access to your family. So if it's a PhD, it's fine. Bring your family, we'll give you visa and give your family members visa. But if it's a 1 year program, no, we don't expect that somebody coming to do only a 1 year program, you would be dragging along wife, husband, and children, because those people, other things being equal, will not have your level of skill. So they are going to become liabilities to the UK government. They will make demands on public treasury. And education is a revenue earner for UK, just the same way oil brings money to us. And so if you bring in £20,000 into our coffers, and because of 2-3 people you are dragging along with you, we have to spend £30,000 on your family. Then on the net, we're losers. And so, and it's not something they're directing to only Nigerians. It's a policy that affects students from all over the world. And so we shouldn't be reading it as something that affects only Nigerians. And these are people who work with data. Tiamiyu or no Tiamiyu, they have data with which they take decisions. So it's not Tiamiyu that influenced the decision that the UK government have taken. Looking at data they have, they discovered that in the last 1 year, for example, Nigerians account for about 45% of students in the UK who brought dependents into that same country. So on the average, for every one Nigerian who has left in the past 1 year to go to school in the UK, he also didn't move alone. He or she carried along at least one family member. And so that data doesn't have to come from TMU. They don't joke with data. I studied in the UK. I have worked in the UK. I go to the UK all the time. So we shouldn't make it look like it's TMU that has brought bad luck to us.
But I think the angle where Nigerians are, raging at the moment is the fact that Tiamiyu gave the UK government an impression that, Nigerians coming over to the UK to study is not majorly about the certificate, but because they want to use it as a conduit pipe to bring their dependents to the UK.
Well, indeed, per capita income in the UK is significantly higher than per capita income in Nigeria, where it is still under $3,000. In the UK, certainly, per capita income is about $50,000. So you see that the money you earn working in the UK in a year, is the money a Nigerian probably will work for up to 25 years before he earns it. And so it's not completely out of place to also assume that when a Nigerian moves to the UK for further studies, he is also aspiring to work there for some time after finishing his studies. And probably if his wife or the husband also has credentials that UK recognizes, such a person can use the opportunity to work and earn significantly higher income, while the person's program lasts. So in looking at that matter, we just have to go for a balance. But Nigerians are not the only ones who travel because they are looking for greener pastures. All over the world, Indians are traveling, Chinese are traveling, Malaysians are coming into the UK. I attended the University of Reading and several other universities in the UK, including Oxford and Cambridge. And I know that for University of Reading, for example, I was on campus with students from about 150 other countries around the world. So Nigerians are not the only ones who go to the UK to study, and a good number of those people arriving from Saudi Arabia, from Malaysia, from China, and also have the tendency to bring in their family members. So it's just that given our own economic circumstances as a people, we all know how difficult life is in Nigeria at the moment, especially in the past 8 years. It has been very, very difficult. So Nigerians, and when we say difficult, it's not just in economic terms, also in terms of security. So people are looking for places where they can go, and they don't have to worry about their spouses and their children. Here we see doctors being picked up, we see university lecturers being picked up. So people want to go to places where they go to work and they don't have to worry about the safety and security of their children. So all of those things, put together, will help us to understand the context in which this decision has been taken. But that definitely it would be a wrong idea to assume that every Nigerian living here is just searching for only greener pastures and not searching for better skills. First and foremost, I can confirm that minimum of 9 out of every 10 Nigerians leaving the shores of our country to go to UK or America, they want to go to school because the universities in the UK give you superior education. What you learn in the UK university in only 1 week, Nigeria may struggle for 5 years to give you that and still will not deliver it.
These are really strong conversations that we are having this morning. And let's also look at the effect of this visa ban on the United Kingdom. The fact that the changes made to the student visa route will reduce net migration. And when we say we are reducing net migration, what is the overall effect this is going to be having on the UK? And they are also saying that although they are reducing net migration, the economic benefits that students bring into the United Kingdom will still be protected. Where does this keep the UK government?
Well, these guys work with data. If you want to come into the UK to do a PhD, the UK will welcome you open arms because they know that a PhD candidate has a very strong foundation in terms of knowledge and skills. And so you are coming to enhance their economy. And so they want you to come. And but overall, we also know that in the past 2-3 years, they have welcomed a lot of people into the economy. And it's a regulated economy. They are not, it's not like Nigeria where your politicians don't care. Those people, they care. They know that first and foremost, UK should cater for the citizens of UK before you start talking about citizens of other countries or of other countries. And so they keep looking at the data and they want to make sure that the jobs that are available first and foremost cater for citizens, because the politicians who go out there looking for votes, the people they ask to give them votes are not people who come from other countries. They are people who are UK citizens. They are the people who have the right to vote. And they make promises when they go to them. They are unlike their own politicians who make promises they don't keep. And so they have made promises to their citizens and they want to keep those promises. They don't want the jobs that are meant for their citizens to go to citizens of other countries because those are not the people who voted them into office. Mm-hmm. And so they keep looking at data, and anytime they think that things are about to go wrong, they tweak the policy to ensure that they bring everything back to balance. And that's exactly what is happening. And it's a very competitive economy, and they are looking at everything. And if this policy after a year or two is not working perfectly for them, they will tweak it again and allow Nigerians and people from other countries to bring their children because they are competing in a global space. Australia is there, New Zealand is there, America is there, Canada is there. They know that all those people are looking for students from Nigeria.
Exactly. And so that's a beautiful twist. Yes. That's a really beautiful twist that you brought to it, Doctor, because we're not even looking at 1 year. Already in the last couple of days, we've already seen a number of other countries being enumerated that can allow students to come in with their family members. 7 countries have already been named. So you can imagine that from 2024, the attention will begin to reduce from the United Kingdom, although they really give, superior education. But then again, there are conversations about how expensive education is in the United Kingdom.
And just to add to what you are saying, Doctor, in the space of this conversations, that have come out because of the UK visa ban, some universities also are saying, look, it's going to cause a very big chunk of financial crunch on the universities as well. So there are some other bodies in the UK that are trying to say, look, let's
this is not good for business.
Let's review this particular visa ban because of the financial crunch it will be having on our universities.
Yeah, definitely. Universities, the average vice chancellor in the UK will not be clapping hands for the government for this kind of decision because they make a lot of money from students who come from places like Nigeria, China, and several other countries. But what they will do is I have told you, they work with data. So they are looking at data as it affects students from different parts of the world. So you know that the average Chinese student arriving in the UK is not going to drag a family member to the UK because that is not how their own system works. For about 40 years now, they have done one couple, one child. And so as somebody who has benefited from UK education, I can tell you that the average Chinese, who comes to the UK to study comes alone. It doesn't come with a husband or wife or brother or sister. And so what they will do is to look more in the direction of Asia, especially China, where they know that the students who are coming to do masters are not going to drag family members along. So overall, they will still get the number they are looking for. So all they need to do is to rejig their marketing, plans and strategies and redirect their attention, towards countries that where students will come, have the money to pay the fees, but will not bring in burdens on the system. So we shouldn't worry so much about the UK. They are working with data.
So this explains why it looks like Nigeria is on the front burner. It looks like Nigeria is taking the heat because although Nigerians want the education, they have dependents coming with them. Like you said earlier, it's not necessarily an issue about Nigeria. It's for international students. But then we are concentrating on the highest percentile in terms of those that bring dependents. So whether they lose Nigerian students or not, it doesn't mean they'll be losing education business.
It's just a shift in focus. The average university in the UK has a marketing department. So all they need to do now is to focus their marketing resources on attracting students from China, people who will come without bringing dependents. And, China is a country that has 1.4 million people, and that's 1.4 billion people, and they can get enough there. Just pump more marketing resources into China, and you'll be able to get the students in terms of numbers who will replace the ones that you have been trying to get into UK from Nigeria. So it's a simple marketing strategy that they have to rejig, and they will still be fine.
It's quite a serious issue for Nigerian students. Yesterday we saw pictures that the Nigerian Association of National Association of Nigerian Students, now NANS, in the UK, were actually protesting. I'm sure they are beginning to feel the heat and the repercussion of what this visa ban will mean, coming from your explanations, Dr. Ogudoro. But let's also look at the lessons that we should begin to learn from these kinds of visa bans now. What do you think are the lessons that should be learned? And it's also good that we have a couple of days more for a transition government to come on board, a new administration to come on board. And what would we be looking forward to in our educational system? But let's start first with the lessons to be learned from this visa ban.
Well, lessons first. Who is to learn the lesson? Students have to learn the lessons, and the politicians have to learn the lessons. We know that politicians train their children abroad, and they think that once they have taken care of their children, the rest of us, do not matter. But that's a wrong idea. And so for the politicians, especially for the incoming administration starting Monday, I think that we need to work out a funding model that will make our higher education work well for everyone. Because if we put the right resources into what we're doing in universities, we won't have need to always look outside for higher education. And when we say resources, we need to train our lecturers. We need to put them on international networks so that they can network with their counterparts in other parts of the world and be able to deliver cutting-edge knowledge and skills to students who are studying in Nigeria. We also need to equip their laboratories, because if you are studying a science-oriented course, especially at graduate level, Nigeria definitely doesn't give you what you're looking for. Your master's students, your PhD students, we haven't got the technology it takes to become a globally competitive engineer, a globally competitive, surgeon in today's world, a globally competitive computer scientist, software engineer, AI engineer, etc. So let our politicians put our money where it will bring us the largest dividend. As we speak, we are still on the budgeting for education. So it's not a bad idea for a country like Nigeria to do as much as, putting about 20% of our national budget into education, because as we all know, it's open secret that education is the bedrock of development. Once you get it right with respect to education, technology gets fixed, politics gets fixed, economy gets fixed. But what we are doing here is to put all the money in the pocket of politicians. And here, the average a senator takes away as much as up to 45 million naira, maybe in a year, if not a month, and that's scandalous. And when the average Nigerian doesn't earn up to $3,000 in a year, and I think that's something that we need to think about very seriously. So rather than Nigerian students protesting in the UK against the UK government for this decision, I think they should protest at the Nigerian embassy in the UK to compel Nigerian government to fix education back home, so that they can come here and finish the education, and probably those who haven't left the shores of Nigeria can find University of Ibadan, University of Uyo, Unilag, Ibadan, and Ahmadu Bello attractive to study in. And when they finish in those places, in a smooth arrangement with that calendars being truncated, they will be globally competitive. And that's the simple thing to begin to consider at this point in time.
Yeah, I like where you ended it, so we can also be globally competitive. But it brings me to mind on a particular story that we had on the papers this morning, where the Minister of Education, Adamu, is saying he knew nothing about education before he was appointed. Now, is that not a thing to worry about, especially when we know that we're going into a new administration?
Yeah, definitely. That's not surprising if you do my kind of research. I have always told people this. Adamu has, to the best of my knowledge, his highest academic attainment is a first degree in accounting. And then you give him such a very critical portfolio. Minister of Education is supposed to be the most powerful minister in terms of the impact he can make on our nation. So how can you give such a responsibility to somebody whose highest academic attainment is first degree in accounting, when there are professors of education, who are Nigerians and teaching in Nigerian universities, and some of them are teaching abroad? People like us have got a PhD in education. What happened that some of us are willing to serve Nigeria for free, and you ignore us and you go and take somebody whose highest academic attainment is first degree in accounting? What has accounting got to do with running an education system? So we have always known this, and you kept him there for 8 years. So he grounded the system, and we're pretending now that we're just getting to discover that. We have always known that, and that's very unfortunate for us. And it's not just him. I do research in the industry, go into the ministries of education across the country, whether at federal level or at state levels, and you discover that the people who serve as education inspectors are people who know little or nothing about education. And sometimes you find them going to primary schools, secondary schools, and university to supervise and instruct people who are better informed than them. And we have had cases where a primary school teacher who, for example, studied in the UK is being told what to do by somebody who knows nothing about education, coming from Ministry of Education in the state government, imposing anachronistic ideas on the person who has a superior idea. And so it's a very bad system we have in place, where chronism is what determines who gets what position. This nepotism we have complained about in the past 8 years has done a very bad thing to the health of the education industry, especially, and I think even to wider Nigeria. And I hope that the incoming administration, especially at the federal level, will not carry that mindset to that level. Because once you become a president, you are no longer president of the party that voted you into office, that brought you into office. You are no longer president of the tribe from which you originally have come. You become the president of everybody in the country, and you forget the fact that you are going there with only about 35%, of people who voted for you. So there's need for reorientation, but I'm not very sure that all the people who are around these people who are going to take the reins in the next government are going to allow them to think the way the three of us are thinking.
Part of the conversations that has been thrown up by this visa, ban from the UK is the fact that there are postulations that how well Nigerians are doing in different sectors within the United Kingdom, has also informed the decision of the United Kingdom to bring about this ban. In terms of the fact that we have Nigerians in different sectors at the helms of affairs doing excellently well. So we have competing interests in terms of where the economic powers also are returning to. Are these things that you share same sentiments about at this time?
Well, globally, Nigerians do well. We come from a very difficult environment, fundamentally. Nigeria is a very challenging place to live in and to study in and to work in. And so after you have suffered here and you hit the UK or you go to Canada or America, you carry that strength, that resilience that has enabled you to survive in Nigeria. And you discover that most of the people you are competing with over there are people who are not likely to beat you on any front, really. So that spirit of hard work is in us. But when you get to those kinds of places, you find the right technology, you find the right social support network, and your lecturers and people in industry where you work are support you. So you begin to, the best in you comes out, and that is what makes Nigerians shine all over the world. That is not to say that every Nigerian who goes abroad shines. There are also lazy people, we must confess, who left here without a purpose, and so not much will change for them when they get abroad. But overall, Nigerians are doing excellently well in every climb, in every country, whether it's United States, Canada, Australia, any part of Europe. And United Kingdom is a place where we have excelled very well. When I as a student in the UK, I remember that when I finished my program, my assessors, my examiners who were British, they said, well, they had never seen, their own students, anybody who was British who performed at my level. And so I was nominated as Doctoral Researcher of the Year when I finished. And that's something you'll find with several other Nigerians who have studied abroad. But unfortunately for us, you come back here, nobody gives you attention. And even when you want to make a difference, that can help everyone. But hopefully someday through, as a result of the impact of your prayers, something might change for the better.
Yeah. We really appreciate the balance that you have thrown up in a lot of conversation that we have had this morning, showing us different sides of the coin as it relates to this particular issue. So that we don't drag you too long, would like to ask, in terms of balancing this whole issue for Nigerian students and the Federal Republic of Nigeria where education is concerned, what would your final words be this morning?
Yeah.
Well, people shouldn't over focus on ban. They should try and study the policy and understand it. The UK is not discouraging you from coming to study in the UK. The UK is saying if it's masters you are coming to do, then they do not think it makes even economic sense for you to start buying flight ticket for everybody in your family and then start preparing to feed everybody in your family in the UK, because it makes it very challenging, in terms of the economic implications of that for the average Nigerian. And I think to some extent, I agree with them. If you have also lived in the UK, you know that even for only you as a student paying, on the average about £20,000 to study there in 1 year, if you now add somebody else who's moving along with you, whereas you can, manage a small room, maybe en suite as a student. If you are moving with your wife or with your children, you have to get a larger accommodation. That will cost you much more money. So if it's masters you're going to do, maybe you think thoroughly before you take that decision as to whether you want to drag somebody along or not. But that shouldn't apply only to the UK. Even if you're going to the US to study, they also look at those kinds of things. Why are you coming to our country to spend only 1 year? You're bringing 2-3 people along with you. But if it is a PhD you're going to do, trust me and trust the UK. They welcome you and everybody in your family with open arms, because they know you are coming to get skills and use those skills to benefit the economy, and they want to retain you even after you have finished studying. As you know, the policy as of today says that if you finish a master's, they give you automatically 2 years to spend, to look for a job, and if after 2 years you have got a job that is available to you on a permanent basis, you get a sponsor who allows you, who works with government to ensure that you continue to work in the UK. But if it's a PhD, automatically you get 3 years extra to spend after you have finished your program. So they are looking for highly skilled people, and they know that once you finish a PhD, you're a big shot. Everybody needs you around the world. America needs you, Australia needs you, and they need you. So maybe the smart thing to do is to modify our career strategy as individuals. So what you can do is to do a master's in Nigeria, really. In a year you finish, and that saves you a lot of money. And then go to the UK to do a PhD, and they will allow you to take your family along. So it's not where, those of you who believe in the scripture, the word of God talks about, all things working together for good. So instead of burning £25,000 in 1 year to do a master's in the UK, maybe you should just use only 80,000 naira to do a master's in Nigeria, in a federal school in Nigeria, and then thereafter go to the UK to do a PhD, which gives you, access to an economy that is advanced and functional, and that will make it possible for you to have access to the rest of the world. And that with that, you'll be able to take your family along, because at that point in time, they know that if they don't allow you to bring your family, you probably will change your mind and move to their competing countries like Canada, Australia, and America. They don't want you to go anywhere else, because you are the kind of human being they are looking for, people of high skills. Yeah. So I think for the individuals, let's modify our career strategy. Instead of probably doing masters abroad, maybe you do masters here. Make sure you do very well when you're doing your masters in Nigeria. Finish with distinction, so that you'll be able to get PhD placement in America, in Canada, in the UK, and moving with your family becomes something that nobody's going to discuss. It's a non-issue.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Peter Ogudoro. Of course, an award-winning educationist. Thank you so much for your time. The conversation was highly enjoyable and also informing as well. We say a very big thank you, and I hope to also have you subsequently on our programs like this. Thank you so much, sir.
It's my pleasure. Enjoy the rest of the day.
And you too.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, so
A lot of, there are conversations that you have, and it just elicits you to think.
Yeah.
And when we compare it back to Minister of Education Adamu's talk on, I did not have the knowledge, for the position, and you're thinking, but we have people like this in the country. Why not leverage on this amount of knowledge and this amount of exposure? Imagine getting the likes of Dr. Peter Ogudoro, 10 of them into a room, to man the educational system. We are going to begin to see all kinds of reforms, that will benefit us in the overall. We had conversations when this whole visa ban thing started.
No, the question you should ask is, does Dr. Peter Ogudoro have a bad record somewhere that they will show him at the end of the day? You want to do right?
Him back.
Look at your bad record. So these kinds of people.
So we keep sabotaging.
Yeah, they keep sabotaging the system because we thrive on sabotaging the system.
We thrive on corruption.
Yes, we thrive on corruption. But it's quite a pity. We hope that the new administration would, look into some of these issues, shake up the sectors a little bit for positive reasons now, bring in technocrats, people that know the job. Yeah. People that know the job. We will always say plug and play. As you're plugging, they are playing, and not because we said something about nepotism earlier on. It's really a very terrible situation in the country because he's my kinsman. Oh, that's my geopolitical zone. It has to go there. Whether we have capacity in that place, in that region or not, whether we have the person pushing the person
visionary
forward,
enough for the position,
is even visionary enough, or even have the capacity or even the knowledge for it. We do not want to care just because it's my kinsman and all of that. So we should take all of that out and try to, because it's really a very terrible thing. The number of people leaving this country for educational purposes is alarming. It just shows that there's something wrong with our educational system. I think yesterday we were talking about it. I said the number of people and pictures and videos I have seen in the last couple of 24 hours. Yeah, people celebrating their children. You find out that even the common man now would starve himself of food just to save up money to give his or her child a good education. So you see that the common man would always want to send the child abroad to go and school because he knows that that's a better environment, the system is working more, and when the person comes back, he'll be of benefits to the rest of the family. So you see that there are some situations where they deprive others of education just to give this one person education that is good, and then the person now becomes the messiah of the family.
And that even expands the conversation we've been having with regards to dependency laws in the UK, because if we have an average family in Nigeria put everything that they have together to send one person with the hope that once you stabilize, begin to go to school, you will open up the road for other of your siblings to come into the UK, get an education also overall, and still contribute back. So we are also saying, for some families that have been making that sacrifice, this visa ban might be an issue. But then, like Dr. Peter said, why not spend minimal amount of money, get your basic education within the country, and let's also be honest, we have good schools in Nigeria. We have great lecturers within our universities that are giving great education. And we also must add the fact that the internet has breached the gap of education for us.
So you can go to school online.
Exactly. Not even, going to school online alone. Even if you're going to school in Nigeria, being taught by Nigerian lecturers, we have research materials online that can boost your knowledge quota, that increase the things you know about a specific line of course that you're taking on. So you can get all that grounding here, and eventually if you want to pursue a PhD, you can still, go forward to it. But the issue, thereon is not even like just the PhD issues, the addendums that people add to pursuing this education in these countries are part of the reasons people consider these things. But all hope is not lost. We just need to refocus on our country. Why are we not getting why is the GDP of the country, why is education not contributing to the GDP? I mean, like Doctor has said, research everywhere shows that the United Kingdom is dependent highly on monies generated from the education sector. You can't say that in Nigeria.
Yeah, definitely. I think at this point, we'll just take a very short breather. And when we come back, of course, we'll be wrapping things up on this end. But then again, thank you for being here. So far, so good. Let's take a breather. We'll be back shortly.
Business exists only to meet the needs of the people. But there's an extra advantage if your product and services are pitched on a platform that gives you the added advantage over your competitors. For your desired return on investment and so much more, advertise on Spectrum Television, on StarTimes DTH Channel 421 and on free-to-air with a frequency of 12733. Spectrum Television, broadening your horizon.
The Nigerian police, which is the only one allowed by grossly abused. Our governors have to share police powers with the president as stipulated by the constitution. We do not have a federal government police force. We have the Nigerian police force, which shall be administered, organized, and supervised by the Nigerian police force.
No, my lord, I want to say something. I want to say something here. Perhaps it might also enlarge the scope of people who should be invited here for examination. My lord, if we cannot find those who literally murdered Abiola, who are those people who could be said to be the beneficiaries of the death of Abiola?
Rogers has linked you with some of the killings he did.
He never did.
He linked you with the attempted murder of Hebrew.
He did not.
My lord, the matters council is leading the evidence in our matters.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord, but you can't be talking about cases which are in court, my lord.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord. These cases are in court, my lord. I'm just reminding your lordship.
My lord, sorry, my lord, I think I'll be in cross-examination.
Legally Speaking, a program that deals with legal issues and questions we face as citizens of this amazing country, Nigeria. Legally Speaking. Join us every
Friday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m.
for Legally Speaking.
One truth not often told is about the transformation that Africa has undergone in recent decades. Africa is shaping its own destiny and should be referred to as the African opportunity. On Spotlight Africa, we paint the African picture the African way, laced with truth, detail, and the color of the African continent. Join Uyai Anyekan every Tuesday and Thursdays at 4:30 p.m. Spotlight Africa, telling the African story.
Okay, so something just popped up this morning on social media. It says Sheyi Tinubu, son of President-elect Bola Tinubu, donated wheelchairs to some special needs people during the Renewed Hope concert at the MKO Abiola National Stadium in Abuja. Yeah, I just saw this now. Yeah, so our work has started. So while
we are hitting the ground running.
Yeah, we are hitting the ground running. So it's more like, okay, so while my father will be the next president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, I also, as a son, I have to do my bit. So him donating wheelchairs at this point, maybe we'll just applaud him. Let's keep it going.
We can say it's a nice introduction into the administration. At least we'll be expecting some doings by Sheyi Tinubu. Yeah, we should be expecting some doings. So I told you, it's an administration that is going to be robust. We are looking
Yeah, definitely. And like you said the other day, we are also hoping to see how
the first
Oluremi
lady,
Tinubu, the wife of Bola Ahmed Tinubu, will be doing as well. How will she carry her office as a first lady, even though that office is unconstitutional, though? But we need to hear of her more frequently than we did when we had the wife of President Buhari now. She wasn't quite vocal in some things, but she was more like this kind of person that would be at the background now. Aisha Buhari, she was more like someone that would just be at the background, taking notes, and then when she comes with a bomb. She just drops it and then it explodes, and you find reactions everywhere.
Everywhere.
But this is where we are going to be drawing the curtains on today's conversation. Thank you so much for always being a part of our show. Of course, don't forget to head straight down to our social media platform, especially on Twitter at Spectrum T Online. Spectrum T Online is our social media handle on Twitter. Spectrum T Online. So do well to hit up and of course follow. Yes, follow for on-the-go information that we have on Spectrum Television. My name is Janice Cobham. I'll definitely see you again on the inauguration day. That is 29th of May.
I nearly forgot that it's thank God it's Friday for you, but definitely it's been a great ride Monday to Friday doing this with you Nigerians, and for everyone who watches us from around the world. We appreciate you for choosing Spectrum Television and Rise and Shine. So our production crew, it's been a great week. Let's do this again next week. But while we are here, let there be peace in Nigeria. Inauguration comes on Monday. It's going to be a great time for Nigeria, we believe.
And just to add that too, on Spectrum Television, just hook up on Monday. Of course, we'll be opening up our May 29 inauguration studios. Well, we will be analyzing the inauguration as it goes. So do well to stick around with us. And on that note, we say thank you and au revoir.